This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Hey guys, Jay here. Welcome to Models Memories Weekly, episode 170. Models Memories is a show about nothing and is filmed in front of a live studio audience. This is a show where I talk about my painting, modeling, and wargame experiences from the week. Now you might be thinking to yourself, Jay, you put out 3 videos a week. Ow! Could I possibly have more to say? Well, I do, and here goes. This week, Games Workshop came out with a fun gaggle of new miniatures, some for Age of Sigmar, some for Warhammer 40,000, and I found a new wargame. And it's really weird. But first, you know what's weird? Not having your own website, and today's sponsor Squarespace can help with that. Squarespace allows anyone to break into website design with easy-to-use features like the new guided design system, Squarespace Blueprint. Choose from a professionally curated selection of styling options to build a unique online presence from the ground up. Squarespace makes it easy to launch your website and get discovered faster with integrated, optimized SEO tools, so you can show up more often to more people and grow the way you want. Or your own online storefront. Whether your services are physical, digital, or service-based, selling your wares has never been easier with Squarespace's seamless checkout tools. With a Squarespace website, your customers can use whatever payment system they prefer, whether it's credit cards, PayPal, Apple Pay, Afterpay, or ClearPay. Selling your unique wares has never been easier. Squarespace offers a free trial for you to dip your feet into and test the waters, and ready to dive in head first, you can go to squarespace.com/EonsOfBattle or follow the link in the description below to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Taking a look at all of these new miniatures from Games Workshop, let's look at the oddest one first. The Maelstrain Coalescence. Number one, Games Workshop is always fun when they come up with names for things. The Maelstrain Coalescence is a really cool name for like a Cronenberg monster. And speaking of monster, this guy is sick. And also probably physically sick, like he's probably a little bit under the weather. This guy is nasty. I feel like the painting doesn't even make it as gross as it should be. He's a funny little guy. I love the Tyrannid, like, chitin on his back and the tentacles. His arm seemingly has detached, but it's still sort of attached to him through a tentacle. He's got his mouth full. His brain is like gone and has been sucked up into the coalescence. Oh, I like that name a lot. The coalescence of like his just back. Like, are we looking at, is this all one guy, or are we looking at like 2 guys, like one monster and one fella working together to be the head honcho of Hive Secundus? Also Secundus these nuts. The new season or version or playstyle of Necromunda looks really cool. We haven't gotten like a release date or any information on what, like we know what comes in the box. We haven't gotten a release date on like when this stuff's coming out. It's really tempting. And I have so many projects going on right now and so many that are like on the painting desk waiting to be painted. I don't have room for another wargame, but this stuff is so cool. And Games Workshop week after week is coming out with bangers for Necromunda. And this guy is like top of the list. He's so creepy and weird and fun. I wonder what size base that is. Presumably it's like a 40mm, because he's probably just a normal sized fella. But yeah, it's gonna be really, like everything coming out for Necromunda right now looks so cool. And I love that name, the Maelstrain Coalescence. It's kind of interesting is Necromunda is coming out with such cool models that I kind of wish that they were coming out with these models for 40K. Like the joke originally when the Leagues of Votann came out is that the Necromunda squats actually look a little bit better. And they sort of do, they're very similar, but the Necromunda squats do kind of feel like pioneers, or like they kind of match the lore a little bit better, where the Hearthkin warriors for 40K do feel a little bit more militarized. And similarly with the Genestealer cult, the Necromunda stuff with its like weird, every model is a little bit messed up and a little bit Cronenberg, a little bit The Fly with Jeff Goldblum. That's almost a much more interesting look than the sort of off-brand Tyrannid that the Genestealer cult are in 40K. You know, units are split between either they're a normal Imperial Guardsman dude or they're a Tyrannid unit. But the Maelstrain Coalescence and just the Tyrannid of Hive Secundus, these nuts, they're just like, they're so beautiful. They're grotesque, they're monstrous, they feel wrong. I almost wonder if like some of these design philosophies and design principles are like stronger in Necromunda than they are in 40k. And Necromunda is just like a snapshot of one Imperial world, where 40k is meant to be across the galaxy. So everyone's Gene Stealer called army is a little bit different. And so maybe the models being a little bit more bland is just giving people an opportunity to have anything they want. But man, Necromunda is absolutely nailing it. But you know what else is nailing it? Age of Sigmar, probably. We don't know because 4th edition isn't out yet. It's not like officially released, but I am excited for it. And they came out with some new minis. Witness the arrival of the Winged Knight Azeros and the Abominant Brood Terror. The Hour of Ruin is here, and the Skaven Tide is coming to drown out all hope in the mortal realms in the wake of the catastrophic Vermindoom. I know I just praised Games Workshop for their names. Vermindoom is incredibly dumb, but I absolutely love it. Vermindoom. We've got a new rat and a new Stormcast Eternal. And the rat is pretty cool. He's very horny, like he's got a big old horn on his head. It's a really gloopy, monstrous miniature. I feel like their big show-off picture isn't the best angle of a mini. Like every model is kind of meant to be viewed from a certain angle. And this angle kind of makes it look like he doesn't have all of his arms, or he just looks a little bit, I mean, he should be sad. He looks like he's not necessarily having the greatest time of his whole life, but the other pictures they show off, I think, do him a little bit more justice. He's a rat ogre who's got a ton of kit and caboodle. He's got all sorts of different weapons and canisters and just gross stuff. The little fella, which is apparently the original rat, like the little rat that's on his side, is in the article. It says that is the original rat that the rat shapers turned into this abomination. My only critique with this model is the little rat has like 3 very Tyranid-esque arms. Like they look too Cronenberg, like that they've just come into reality. I kind of like when everything is very correct or very blatant with monsters of this sort. So I almost, if I were to get this model, and I probably will, I think I'll cut off the weird flesh arms and then give them actual rat claws at the end of each of those holding weapons. Because to me, that would just make it look a little bit better than having these sinewy, muscular, like Dead Space monster arms. Yeah, I really like the rat. He's big, he's gross. He's really, really cool. I really like what Games Workshop did with the paint job on his little armor that they free-handed the Skaven's symbol on it. I think that looks really, really sharp, and I would be tempted to use that all over the place on the Skaven miniatures. I also don't know about his, like, orange pants. Like, I don't know if orange is his color. I think a different color would suit him a little bit better. Orange is it's very pumpkin orange. It's very interesting. I think green would be an obvious choice. Red, because red things are more important. I don't know if orange is his color, and it kind of looks a little bit too close to the copper on his tanks. He's a really, really interesting model, and I like him a lot. He looks like he's going to be an absolute monster in close combat and probably have a decent bit of ranged threat to him. Oh, and his tanks are in his back. Like, how did they get in there? Did they start off in there? Like, do the rats go into like a big test tube, like the back to tank that they put Luke in after the Wampa attacked him? Spoiler alert. Like, what? How does like something like this actually happen? It's probably just a little rat pulling levers, and then his little rats are pulling littler levers to make all of this stuff happen. But man, he is grotesque. But then we go on to the Stormcast Eternal, and he is like the opposite of grotesque. He is absolutely angelic. And I really like this miniature. I feel bad because I'm not super jazzed on the new Stormcast miniatures, but I do think the new Stormcast miniatures are the coolest Stormcast we have ever gotten. They look absolutely phenomenal. But I mean, we're comparing them to the Skaven. New Skaven, and Skaven in general, are really, really cool, where the Stormcast are kind of just dudes. And I want to like the Stormcast. I like the Stormcast a lot. I've enjoyed all of the books that I've read on the Stormcast because it's such an interesting bit of lore that they're like souls who were in their last ditch moment of glory when they die to save humanity, or like life in general in the mortal realms. Their soul is sucked away from them, and then they're put into these immortal bodies to like fight forever. Like their lore is really cool, and you get these guys who all have like a little dream in the back of their mind of the life they lived before, and so they all have their own unique personality, which is in theory different than the Space Marines, because even though in the lore, when you read the novels, Space Marines are just fellas who have their own feelings and opinions on things, and sometimes have different views than their other battle brothers, which they kind of shouldn't have because they've all been soldiering together for the last 10,000 years, but it makes the novels more interesting. The Stormcast Eternals can actually have differences of opinions because they all lived different lives before becoming Stormcast. All of this to say, I really, really love this miniature. My one little critique, and it's barely a critique because I can fix this with the miniature, I don't like his big flowing robes that go like hang in front of him and are way longer than his feet, because he can't walk. Like he will be walking on his skirt. And I think one really big missed opportunity is the skirt should be absolutely ragged, and the cuts and the damage of his skirt should match the magical fire coming off of his wings. I think that would actually keep the motif of just like his angelic power and make it so much stronger. I mean, that's easy to do. Just take your Dremel tool and just go to town on the bottom of his little skirt. I think it would look really, really good, make him much more powerful. I think in terms of paint job, I think you gotta go a little bit more messed up and a little bit more like battle damaged, or a little bit more dark and gritty with this angelic fire. I don't really care much for his armor is, every bit of his armor is absolutely perfect, and then you got these perfect angelic wings, but then off of that you got fire. I think I would try to make the wings, like every element that is magical, I would try to make it the same color so that it's much easier to read. Because I feel like right now, a lot of the details on him just kind of mush together. But I think all of that can be solved easily with painting. I love that he has Space Marine purity seals. He looks so cool. Whatever is on his like forehead is really, I just noticed that the little thing on his forehead, when he puts on his helmet also has a little thing on his forehead that like perfectly matches. That is branding right there. He's always going to be representing, I think it's like a ram's head, which in 40K, I guess both in 40K and Warhammer Fantasy Battles, like a ram's head was always the representation of a magic wielder. So it is a really nice little touch harkening back to Age of Sigmar's history, but I really like it. Both of these models are absolutely exceptional. I'll probably get both of them. I'm really excited to try them out and just see what Age of Sigmar 4th edition brings, because I played one singular game of Age of Sigmar 3rd edition and I really enjoyed it. I played Dominion, the original 3rd edition box, and it was really fun. So I'm really excited to see if 4th edition can make the game even funner, which isn't a word, but I just said it. But speaking of things that are even funner, I found a new war game. I was at a new friendly local gaming store, and they had like everything under the sun. It was magical. But on like the bottom shelf, kind of tucked away, was a war game that I've had my eye on forever. And it's a little game that no one has ever heard of called Quar. This is Quar. It's got this beautiful little like watercolor art on the front of these weird wormy dudes. It's kind of a World War I inspired historical game, but based in a fictional universe where a faction, like a species called Quar, who have like the body of Winnie the Pooh and the head of an earthworm. It's the weirdest little thing, and it's always existed. Like the creator of this game the game has existed for a long time, but is recently by Wargames Atlantic has gotten plastic miniatures, and they've helped them to make some injection molded miniatures, like some kind of COcast minis. They're like, I've eyed this game out of the corner of my eye forever, and finally finding it in a shop was magical. I immediately bought it. I'm super excited for this, and I've scratched another hobbying itch that I've had for a while, and that is Turnip 28. I painted up the Quar Coffee Ryan Trench Raiders. I think these are the close combat units. I haven't read the rules yet, but I'm so in love with the miniatures, I'm just gonna paint up an entire army and then just deal with whatever bad decisions I made in terms of equipping actual weapons. But I love these minis. So in Turnip 28, multiple people have explained Turnip 28 to me and I still barely understand the game. From what I've digested, it seems less to be like a game and more like a way of living. Like people who drink Faygo. Like it's you can't quite describe it, but you know it when you see it. And so I actually took these models and I put a ton of texture paste and actual tufts onto the miniature itself and then painted over it. And I put on these epic basing mushrooms and I really, really love how it turned out. Like I probably put a couple of hours into modeling each of my Quar models and then maybe an hour into painting. I whipped it up super fast. I used kind of a Zorn palette with a lot of browns, ochres, oranges, and yellows. And I think I'm gonna keep that going for my entire army. If I do collect the other faction in the box, then I'll probably pick a different color palette for them to be, just so it's really easy to distinguish the two different factions. But I love these miniatures and I'm so excited to paint them all up. This box, the Quar box, this is just like a faction box. It comes with 24 miniatures and they're plastic and they're beautiful. They're really, really good. I love that like a little tiny game like this gets to exist. It's super interesting. It's super neat. I remember a while ago, I was talking, I think in someone else's YouTube video, I think it was Uncle Adams was interviewing me, and he asked like, what is the next step of like miniature wargaming? What do you think is like gonna happen next? And I said that it was going to be licensed games like Star Wars or different video games were gonna be made into miniatures games. I actually don't think that anymore. I don't think that the next big thing is going to be some sort of a branded or licensed game. I think it is going to be something really weird like Quar. I think it does have to kind of stand on its own as something really, really unique. Like if you play Warhammer 40K, Quar is a totally different feel. I feel like even if you play like Bolt Action or Conflict 47, Quar is gonna be something different. They're funny little fellas. They're so cute. The box art is watercolor that looks almost like it's from a children's game. And then I painted him up and he does not look like he's from a children's game anymore. He looks like he's still cute, but in a really grotesque way. I'm really, really loving Quar. I mean, my painting desk is absolutely full. And as soon as I bought Quar, it all got shoved to the side and I immediately put my clippers and paintbrushes into getting these miniatures painted up. I got the 3 trench raiders done, and then next up I've got 3 guys who operate like a gun. This little tank thing, it's 1 track and it's got just a big old gun and a big old shield. And then I have a tree kind of growing off to the side of it with a little light that is being held precariously. I gave it like a little sight out of 1 singular mushroom because that's Turnip 28. It just, anything you can do to make it weird and wacky is what makes something look Turnip 28. And so really excited to get this guy painted up in the Zorn palette. And then it'll be on to the 24 models that come in that Coffee Ryan core box. I am really excited for this miniature war game. It's really, really cool. It's incredibly different. And I think that's one of the things that's got me really excited for it. Like when Star Wars Shatterpoint came out, I was really excited for Shatterpoint because it came with some minis I wanted to paint. But it is also like I have Star Wars Legion. I've painted hundreds of models for Star Wars Legion. So it's like more Star Wars. I get Star Wars. I don't get Quar. I still am not quite sure what's going on, but I love it. It is a completely new experience. And if you guys are looking for a new experience, why not check out our Patreon? Over there, we have fresh terrain sets every single month, and this month we have the Dark Elf Encampment. Soar through the air in the Marauder and then set up camp with the Pleasure Tents, Arena Walls, and Pleasure Portal. This is a set of characterful terrain pieces and wonderful accessories for the discerning elf. I am absolutely in love with Quar. I've heard rumblings. Like I think I first heard of Quar on Pinterest when I saw one little wormy dude. And ever since then, I've had my eye on it. I've looked through like all of their website information. There is a fully fleshed out and developed world around Quar with like maps and historical lineages and the lore behind each faction and allied sub-faction within the Quar world. It's an amazing little indie game. Like indie game is usually, I think, of video games made by like one guy in his basement, but that's kind of what Quar is. It's a miniature war game made by somebody, and I bought it from my friendly local game store, and it's super, super cool, and I gotta get back to painting more of it, so thanks for watching.